Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mudahar, and a couple I would say a month, a little bit ago, we talked about a massive hack in the U.S. Treasury, and it was all about this Chinese organization known as Salt Typhoon, basically getting into one of the most important federal agencies in the country. So since then, there's been some updates. The office, the actual cybersecurity agency of the U.S., CSIA, actually went in and said, yeah, we're going to be sanctioning this one company associated with this super scary Chinese government-associated hacker group known as Salt Typhoon. And of course, the person they named was Yin Keshing, a Shanghai-based actor, and of course, they put him on the OFAC, which is a sanction list that contains some of the most hated people of the United States. So cyber attackers, terrorists, just bad organizations. And this guy is forever immortalized right now on the OFAC. Now, I would talk more about this if it wasn't for the fact that Elon Musk is a winner, boys. Elon is probably one of the most impressive dudes that I've seen buy his way into a presidency. And again, there's a lot of people that hate the guy, but to be honest with you, I almost in some villainous way respect it. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, the new president has come in, and of course, alongside that, there's a new government agency called DOGE. Now, if you haven't seen DOGE's website, well, unfortunately, I have been blocked. I cannot access doge.gov. And of course, as much as I try to, it is an inaccessible website. But thanks to the Wayback Machine, you can in fact confirm this is an official website of the United States government. The people voted for major reform. And of course, at some point earlier down the road, they had this AI heart of a Shiba Inu. I don't understand why Dogecoin is worth 27 cents per coin. This should actually be higher than Bitcoin's $99,000, okay? I mean, at least Dogecoin is now forever immortalized as an advisory agency to the US government. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what DOGE is a temporary organization underneath the DOGE service, formerly known as the United States Digital Service. DOGE is not a federal executive department. Which again, if you've ever studied any, thing about the United States government, I think the US government is probably one of the coolest structured governments in the world. There's three branches: the legislative, the executive, and of course the judicial branch. And from my understanding, it is the Congress, which would be part of the legislative branch, that has the ability to create new federal agencies. This is kind of an agency that's, again, designed more of an advisory commission, something that still requires or should require US government approval. And of course, its purpose is to reduce wasteful spending and eliminate unnecessary regulations, which, to be honest, I personally think is kind of a noble goal. There's a lot of wastage that happens in every government. And sometimes if you look through the budget list, you might find a few things that you might wonder, am I really sending millions of dollars to this random nonsense? Let's cut that out. It's kind of like the US government's effectively, if this is treated the right way, getting fucking audited. Now, again, it would be cool in theory, but obviously stuff like this may be more politically motivated. It might not be perfect. But why did I start this video off with the whole US Treasury and the Chinese hack? Well, it wasn't for no reason, ladies and gentlemen. It is because currently it appears that Elon Musk now has access to the United States Treasury system. So if you've been kind of following what's been happening the last couple days, DOGE gains access to sensitive Treasury data, apparently including things like Social Security and the Medicare payment system. So this is a huge, huge deal, and Elon's been kind of going through the system and talking about it. The DOGE team discovered that amongst many things, payment approval officers at the Treasury were instructed to always approve payments, even to known fraudulent or even terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once. Now, of course, if this is true, if the evidence provided is right, that's actually kind of scary. Now, for people who are, again, investigating this, and there's been, again, journalists who are on the ground looking at this entire kerfuffle, they have said the civil servants who oversee the OPMs, Information Technology Services, were instructed to provide access to Musk's associates. According to the OPM staffers who spoke to Musk Watch, which is an organization that watches one of the richest dudes in the world and just sees their actions, one of these staffers received an email from the agency's new leadership instructing to give access to the team a admin user, which meant code read and write permissions. So they have access to the code itself, which means they can make updates to anything that they want. Now, obviously, this is a pretty scary situation, and I don't really jump into things like politics. This is not really my wheelhouse, but I do make content that is focused on cybersecurity material. And for people that are in the cybersecurity world, this is a scary situation for really anybody. It's almost like the doomsday scenario. To give you an idea, I don't work in the federal government. In fact, I haven't worked in any federal government. But I do know people that obviously are adjacent and have worked in these organizations, and usually there is a lot of background checking, a lot of security clearances, and generally speaking, when you've got a guy that's generally a foreign national, even though I think Elon's a US citizen, when you don't really have everything set in stone, it is really scary to give your information up to a foreign person, right? Again, the Chinese guys were super duper bad for hacking into the Treasury, but you also shouldn't be giving somebody else nearly complete mythic access to one of the most secure facilities, or should be one of the most secure agencies in the country. I mean, you literally gave the guy access to your wallet. It's like me giving my credit card to somebody and just trusting them with it. I mean, this is a pretty scary situation. And again, you know, I feel like for most people, and again, I'm more of a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat type of guy when it comes to this shit, I would be pretty worried, okay? Genuinely speaking. And the fact that I'm seeing people argue about whether this is right or wrong is a little bit worrying, okay? I think everybody should band together and be like, yeah, I don't think we should be giving anybody access to this unless they have been very much vetted. Now, about after a day that this broke out, you know, this whole kerfuffle, this whole magical usurping of the US Treasury systems, Wired wrote an interesting article where they actually revealed the names of some of the engineers that are aiding what they call a government takeover. So the young engineers involved in all this, the experts, I guess, in this situation, involve Akash Baba, Edward Korstein, Luke Ferreter, Gautier Killian, Gavin Kleiger, and Ethan Shoutron. What in the hell is that? What in the Mortal Kombat hell is that last name? I mean, I know my last name is Anus for crying out loud, but come on now. But again, no joke over here. I was looking into more of these people, and it turns out, again, the more and more I look into it, these people, ever since they've been basically, you know, outed by a lot of these journalist groups and basically the internet. And again, for anybody saying this is doxing necessarily, giving out a first, last name in this situation isn't so much doxing. And remember, when you do work for, again, a federal agency, when you do work, well, this wouldn't technically be one, but when you do work in the public sector, when you do work in the government, you're effectively a doxed individual, and transparency is very much a key requirement, especially when you're involved in such sensitive systems. I have no issue with people, again, having their names out, all right? If I worked in a sensitive part of the government, I would probably expect that you, again, would expect my name to be public information. But now that it's out there, again, these individuals started effectively scrubbing their information. For instance, this Akash Baba guy, when I was looking at who this person was, there was a podcast that was uploaded over here where they talked about actually working at an internship for Meta, which I thought was pretty cool. Companies like Palantir, super duper interesting stuff that when you start off with in your resume, you're basically set for life. So I started looking up this podcast, and lo and behold, shit's just getting removed, okay? When I started looking up this Edward guy, for instance, Edward Korstein, this individual apparently looks, again, hairdo all aside, relatively young-looking dude. I mean, goddamn. If you're wondering, man, Muda, isn't this guy a little too young to be working inside or just be planted in at the Treasury? I don't know, dude. I have no idea, but Sonic's right. Remember, you did this to yourself if you voted for this, I guess. Luke Ferreter, again, a young individual who is somebody that focuses on robotics, machine learning, embedded systems, software engineering, and they work for places like Marble Technologies, Blue River. Again, seems like a pretty interesting, again, resume. But again, going in further into it, the amount of, deletions and the amount of privacy or lockdowns on Twitter and things like that are things that I genuinely do question as to why they're happening. Cole Killian, a website that I looked up through the Wayback Machine, ended up leading me to, again, Cole's, I assume to be website, where they talk about their memetics adjacents to utilitarianism, effective altruism, rationalism, closed individualism. And again, some of the books that have influenced them are Superintelligence, Gaming the Future, Rationality, A to Z. But one of the recommended posts that I wanted to read was Don't Be a Maxi. because I, of course, have an interest in the cryptocurrency scene. And they do talk about their connection and their, not being a maxi for Bitcoin and everything, so on and so forth. I think, again, if you're interested in reading some of the stuff, the Wayback Machine is a beautiful, beautiful piece of tech. And of course, our friend Ethan Chautron is apparently a Harvard senior that is developing an AI schedule assistant called Spark. I love this dude, by the way. AI note taker. My next goal is to onboard 3 large enterprises and have them using Spark at a company-wide level, which means I'm on a lot of calls. I use an AI note taker to make sure I just stay focused on the call and not get distracted by writing things down. These note takers describe the conversation and make a summary that is easy to refer to later. I really hope the best in this guy's business endeavors, dude. Honestly, that might be the only AI tool that I could probably consider using at the actual workplace. That might actually be helpful, okay? So again, the US Treasury has basically been twinked up at the moment, all right? Wild stuff indeed. And the thing about it is, too, obviously there's been, again, a severe amount of backlash, which, again, you can understand why it comes out to when people are wondering, whoa, why are we just letting unregistered people, unverified individuals, into a pretty sensitive part of the government? Again, as somebody that has made content focusing on cybersecurity, at the end of the day, there is nothing more dangerous than, not having, a foreign country hacking you. It's when you just have people invading in and allegedly installing servers and hard drives into one of the most sensitive parts of the country. Again, like I said earlier before I went down this tirade, it's a cybersecurity nightmare. People don't know what kind of code is running on these servers that are, again, owned and operated by the federal government that should work for you. So when it came to another different office, this was the Defendant Office of the Personal Management, which is a different department in the U.S. Federal agencies. One of the actual lawsuits actually brought up Elon Musk and the possibility for an unknown OPM email server. So according to this lawsuit, somewhere on the 27th of January, an OPM employee unknown posted to a union chat, which was later posted on Reddit. And then according to this Reddit message, an OPM employee for nearly a decade and a Fed for almost 20 years, incoming political appointees have sent numerous requests to all the agencies to collect information on government employees. The Reddit message further specifies instructions say to send these lists to Amanda Scales. But Amanda is not actually an OPM employee, she works for Elon Musk. According to her LinkedIn page, she works for XAI, which is obviously Elon's AI company. And according to the Reddit message in particular, our CIO, Melvin Brown, also a non-political career public servant, was pushed aside just 1 week into his tenure because he refused to set up email lists to send out direct communication to all career civil servants. Such communications are normally left up to each agency. Instead, an on-prem email server was set up. Someone literally walked into our building, plugged in an email server to our network to make it appear that emails were coming from OPM. It's been the one sending those various test messages you've all seen. We think they're building a massive email list for all federal employees to generate mass RIF notices down the road. Again, just from a cybersecurity perspective, if this lawsuit is true, this is a pretty scary situation that should alarm pretty much anybody living. It shouldn't really be a political topic. You just shouldn't allow unknown servers to even exist, especially when it comes to government, offices. You should be asking questions. You should be wondering what is actually running on these servers. What's going on? Why are these people in some of the most sensitive parts of the country? Especially systems that have your personal information on them, systems that involve Medicare, Social Security, a lot of these things. Now, unfortunately, there have been crazy Reddit boards like r/white people Twitter, which of course has been banned. Obviously, Elon had a bit of a spat with this. And again, I never even knew that there was a board called White People Twitter to begin with before this day, which I think is a wild name. Imagine having a board like Black People Twitter, Indian People Twitter, just insane shit. So of course they started posting things like Musk's DOGE henchmen have been identified. And they said some real wild shit on here. Their names drag their fucking bodies. I'll say it. This needs to be, I can't even read this on YouTube because it literally is promoting actual violent calls. Again, if you're FET posting like this, if you're actually typing this on the internet, congratulations. When the FBI knocks on your fucking door, don't be surprised. No one's going to be defending you. This is not the way to react in these situations. And again, it shows like how unhinged some people get with stuff like this. You should be asking questions. You should be asking for, again, your federal agencies to be investigating this. The fact that this happened and the FBI isn't doing anything about it should have you asking some pretty serious questions. But acting like this is just actually unhinged. Now, again, at the end of all this, the most important aspect to talk about is if that team really does have full access to the federal payment system. You, as a taxpayer, should probably question that, right? Like, if you give money to the Internal Revenue Service, I mean, hey, I do too every year, but if you're a citizen of the country, you should probably ask questions why a private individual has this much access and why the government let it occur. I mean, this is clearly almost, if you wanted to really go to the extreme extrapolation, it's almost like a coup. It's almost like a usurping like actual straight up real power. And what more power is there than basically having access unfettered to the entire financial system of the federal government? That is really, really freaky. There is no hacker in the world that could do even more wild shit than what you just saw here. I mean, I literally cannot even cover a story. I don't even think there can ever exist a story bigger than this. It's why I said I really do have some serious villainous respect for somebody like Elon Musk. The guy literally can never be president of the US because he wasn't born in the country. But goddamn, he's the president to me. This guy has the fucking power. This guy is the winner. If another billionaire walked in, I don't even think they'd make it all the way halfway through the hallway without having a shot to the head. But this guy can spend literally a pittance of his actual money and basically effectively run what is the largest country in the world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty fucking insane. One day there's going to be a movie made about this, I promise you. And this guy is going to be the fucking focal point of it. I honestly got to say, Elon is, in some way, the biggest winner that I've ever seen, dude. This is this guy's fucking year. This statement might age poorly for him, but to be honest, the way that things are going, I really do think this guy's just going to keep on winning and winning and winning. And there is no amount of Path of Exile 2 controversies that can stop it from happening. Now, obviously, there have been some pushback to this as well. For instance, an organization, Public Citizen, actually issued a real complaint, a lawsuit, from my understanding, to the, the U.S. Treasury for even allowing this, where they've basically said the Plaintiffs Alliance for Retired Americans, Federation of Government Employees, people that really do have the most benefit from this stuff, they are basically, going at it, right? They're filing this action against, the Department of Treasury, the Bureau of Fiscal Services, the agencies of the United States, for declaratory and injunctive relief to halt defendants' unlawful ongoing, systemic, and continuous disclosure of personal and financial information contained in, defendants' records to Elon Musk and other members of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or to any other person. And honestly, using a legal system like this is probably the best vector of attack for something like this, because yes, like I said throughout all this, the most important thing is your personal information being accessed by a private party, okay? Again, I don't think this should ever be a weirdly politicized issue. I think if anybody comes into, again, something this important, you as a citizen should just question it, okay? You really should. You should critically think why somebody should be able to buy themselves in to effectively the wallet of the United States. It doesn't really make sense, does it, right? Like, when you really think about it out loud, no matter how this is billed, even if it's through, like, again, going through the DOGE department to, again, cut wasteful government spending, which I think is a really noble goal. I do genuinely see the value in that. But you can't just go in and do whatever you want without, again, having some level of checks and balances, which, may I remind you, is what the government is effectively built off of, and it's why the government is super duper impressive. But as of this even happening, there are other things that have me genuinely a little bit worried too. There's this one bill that I saw being passed, which is, again, notified as the Decoupling America's AI Capabilities from China Act of 2025. And this is very much off topic, but going into this, it really is a bill that, from what I can read, has people genuinely, under the threat of criminal, prosecution if they decide to assist possible AI models like DeepSeek down the road. So I was reading into it, right? Chapter 124, research and development that benefits the PRC. And when you're going into like unlawful acts, a US person may not intentionally conduct, attempt, or conspire to conduct or aid and abet in conducting research and development of AI or generative AI within the PRC for an entity of concern on behalf of an entity of concern in collaboration with an entity of concern for a national of the PRC on behalf of a national of the PRC in collaboration with a national of the PRC. So again, since this is an open source model, it makes me wonder just like how overreaching this bill could be. And if the US government is trying to jump down and killing open source technologies, that is something you should also be questioning, right? I don't think your freedom should be restricted, and I also don't think your private information should effectively be up for sale. And there's probably going to be people that end the video off with, them saying, but Muda, they already had access to the information anyways. I don't care. And I'll say complacency is probably one of the worst things you can have. If you care about your freedoms, if you care about your privacy, if you care about your autonomy, and if you care about your position in the world, you should fight for the most basic things in the world. And having your private information remain private, or at least protected by the federal government to some extent, should be something you go for. You should be asking questions as to what kind of weird servers and code is being injected into the wallet of the United States. But if you don't care, then you don't care. But if you do care, then maybe you should start asking those questions. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I would say this is one of the biggest hacks that I've ever seen. But is it really a hack when the guy just had the doors open for him anyways? Very transparently, I guess. It's insane. I am out.